Harry, there's an interesting person in the Bible. His name is Gideon. We find him in the book of Judges. Why don't you go ahead and give us some background or some history on Gideon today, which we'll be studying?
A really well-known name, Gideon, a true hero of the faith. And for 7 years, the Midianites had controlled Israel. This story is from the book of Judges in the early years of the country of Israel. Justin, why are the Midianites in Israel?
Yeah, because God sent them for the disobedience that they were doing to the Lord. They had idols and many other problems as well at this point.
Yeah, the people of Israel, after Joshua made it clear to them. He said, from now on, you're on your own. If you obey the teachings that Moses gave you, things are going to be great. And if you don't, the enemies around you are going to visit you and help themselves. And that's where we find it today. Chapter 6, 11 to 14. Do you want to read that?
Yeah, it says, Then the angel of the Lord came and sat under the oak that was in Ophrah, which belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, as his son Gideon was beating out wheat in the winepress in order to save it from the Midianites. The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, The Lord is with you, O valiant warrior. Then Gideon said to him, O my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? And were all his miracles which our fathers told us about, saying, Did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and has given us into the hand of Midian. The Lord looked at him and said, Go in this your strength and deliver Israel from the hand of Midian. Have I not sent you?
So an angel appears to Gideon and sends him to save Israel. Gideon is puzzled. He knows the stories of how God did wonders in times past, but where is he now? Gideon believed the angel, sort of. He brings the angel a meal offering. The angel tells him to set it on the rock, and the angel touches the meal with his staff. The fire comes out of the rock and burns the offering. Gideon is convinced. But there's a serious problem and a big test for Gideon. His father has an altar to Baal and an Asherah pole for worshiping. God told Gideon to cut down the holy pole for fuel, build a God altar, destroy the Baal altar, and sacrifice the bull from your barn to God. That is hard, really hard. Your family and community's gods to be destroyed. Gideon does just that with his hired help. The community wants to kill Gideon. They destroyed the altar. His father protects him. He passes the test, and now he feels energized. So the Midianites gather for battle with the Amalekites, another group of people, to torment Israel. Gideon tests God. The enemy is daunting. Gideon says, Lord, he says, if I put out a sheep fleece and it is wet tomorrow morning and the grass is dry, then I'll know that you are real and you want me to do this. So the next morning, Gideon takes the fleece and wrings out a bowl of water, and the grass is dry. Gideon's concerned. Maybe the fleece attracts water better than the grass. So he says, oh, Lord, he says, give me one more chance. Tomorrow morning, the fleece needs to be dry and the grass is wet. And it was. Now Gideon is convinced and musters an army, 32,000 people. Now God tests Gideon. God says, that's too many. Send all the fearful people home. 22,000 went home, leaving only 10,000. God says, still too many. Take them to the river for a little test. 300 men drink from the river, standing up, just scooping water with their hands and drinking it. God says, that's the right number. So just right. Gideon gets it. Now it's only God. There's no other answer.
Yeah, there's no way anybody else can beat this army with 300 people, right? It's by God.
But now God gives him a way of figuring this out. So, but anyways, in the meantime, God gives him one more sign to reassure him. But Gideon is energized and he gets it. He says, now watch me, he says. So Gideon gets a torch and puts it in a clay jar, and he has a trumpet in his other hand. So he's standing there. So everybody, all 300 men with him, have a torch in a clay jar, and they circle the camp on three sides. And he says, when I blow the trumpet, you bust your clay jars, and now your torches will flare, and you blow on the trumpet, shouting for God and for Gideon, and so on.
Mm.
So all of a sudden, middle of the night, about midnight, they blow the trumpets, and everybody has been partying, of course, and now they
Yeah.
wake up and they're confused, and they see the enemy on all sides, a million people out there, because there are trumpets and flares everywhere, an army like you've never seen before. And the Amalekites and the Midianites, they start killing each other and they start to flee, and they head home. And because they are residing in the middle of Israel, so they're heading out. And it's really interesting. The army of 200,000 that was in the valley, and I forgot to mention that they're in the valley below. So as they look up around them, so this is a true victory. But again, it's like David and Goliath. It's a very simple solution. It's not by great hero things, but still, Gideon has to do that. And they follow these people and chase them out of there's more to the story, but the simplicity of the story is that when nothing else works, God does. And that was God's plan, and they're clear as to how this works.
Harry, that's really good, right? But it goes back to that beginning part where Gideon passed the test, right? God didn't give him this war to start off his ministry, shall we call it. The first thing he had to do
Right.
was he had to get rid of all his idols at home, right? So he passed that test. Imagine that would probably be more difficult than trusting God in this war aspect, because you have your community, the people who you're supposed to love and who are look at you and love you. And we see him having to destroy these gods or these fake gods to be able to get to this next step. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it'd be like burning down your church that was to a false god. And like, I mean, wait a minute, how can you do that? And that's what he did. It was their church, was their and now, but the church, well, this case, they were clear this was not God, and the only hope they have is God. And he was willing to do it. That is so hard to turn from your false beliefs and turn to something that is to the living God, and that's the part that really matters, because David said we have a living God, and Gideon too recognized that. They tested each other a few times to see if they were willing for it, and it's really beautiful. God passed the test, Gideon passed the test. It all worked out nice.
Amen. Thanks a lot for this, Harry.
Thank you.